next is another gimbal art. This device was used by our ancestors to stabilize their shaky hands when they film and drank too much coffee. Yes, they also thought it was hilarious to tape things to the wall and call it art. Yeah, oh, excuse me, there's no flash here. This year 2320. Yes, use your ISO. Anyways, moving on, up next is a tripod. So maybe 300 years is a stretch, but I think guessing what 3 years might look like is realistic. Hey, how's it going, guys? Today we're going to debate a very interesting topic, and that is, are camera gimbals fading away in the future, like zoom transitions? I think this is an important question since past year there were new gimbals coming out like every few months, and everyone and their mom got a gimbal now. You see, gimbal became an important part of everyone's filming workflow and has a special place in our gear bag, and we have to wonder, now what? Is my time spent really learning and perfecting the use of this device worth it in the long run? And what do gimbal companies have to do to survive the future and make our gimbal filming relevant? And you know what? I would love for all gimbal companies to watch this video. It'd be kind of cool. I think there's a bit of frustration on what we want gimbals to do and what gimbal companies want their gimbal to be. So feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. I also didn't want to be like one-sided on this video as much as possible, so I asked 5 filmmakers who have their own unique experience in gimbals this question. Would gimbals still be popular in 3 years? And what kind of feature would it have in 3 years? I said 3 years because that's about an average life cycle of a high-tech gear, and also just enough so that we can actually check back on this video in 3 years. So put this video in your playlist, guys, and let's see it in 3 years. First up is my buddy from Oklahoma City.
What's going on, dudes? I'm Joseph. I am a filmmaker. I'm also a photographer, but overall, I just enjoy telling stories and giving you tips and tricks so that you won't have to waste your time, because I hated seeing that while I was searching for answers. But anyway, you didn't care about that, did you? So let's actually hop into it. Are gimbals going to be popular within the next 3 years? Duh. So check this out. Back in the day, you had 2 groups. You had the pros, and then you had the amateurs or the consumer. The amateurs down here were broke and they couldn't afford these $50,000 cameras. But now all this decent gear is coming out and it's becoming so much more affordable. And you can get similar results to what the pros are getting. But now, instead of having this huge gap between the pros and the consumers or the amateurs, now there is this new field called the prosumer, which the prosumers is probably where you're at right now. You love the look of those sexy professional shots that you see, but you don't have the $50,000 that these guys have to throw down on a camera. So there you go, the prosumer audience has been filmed. Boom! Education, bro. First, you got phone gimbals. Now, if you continue to believe all the lies that all these creators are telling you, your phone can do it all and then you don't need a good camera, and look, I talk more about it in this video up here. You can click up there. Wait, say, can I do that, bro? That's not a bad plug. Is that disrespect? Anyway, all I'm saying is that gear does matter. But your consumer audience is going to continue to believe that with their phone and a gimbal, they're gonna get these professional shots that we see on the commercials, and so phone gimbals will continue to be rolling out and keep selling out. As far as camera gimbals are concerned, of course they're going to be around. Right now, people are obsessed with moving shots. What's a tripod, am I right? My God, you're a tripod.
You're a tripod.
Austin Powers and Goldmember reference? Didn't think so. Okay, let's move on. Gimbals in general are getting more and more sophisticated, and they are going to be around for a really long time, but it's kind of like our phones nowadays. We just call it a phone, but you and I both know that it is way more than just a phone. It's a typing interface, audio recorder, Facebooking, talking, Instagram, post, beefy, boom, haha. Well, that works. Same with gimbals. They will be called gimbals, but I think they're gonna be so much more sophisticated. They're gonna balance themselves. They're gonna be able to move on their own. They may even have wheels on. They could just move on their own. But the point is, they will be more than their name implies. But that is all that I have for you guys. Feel free to like and sorry, I thought I was doing my outro. We'll just send it back to say, come on, dude, this is where you cut.
Oh, sorry. So that's what that button does. So Joseph mentioned about this gimbal being more complex in the future. That's actually important, so hold that thought, but next up is someone who works closely with Juin, the gimbal company.
Hey Say, thanks for having me. Hey guys, I'm Brett. Star Wars fans, smash a like if you're a big geek like me, but let's get down to business. Will gimbals still be popular in 3 years? Yes, they will. Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, elaborate. Okay, so why are gimbals going to be popular in 3 years? isn't it kind of saturated at this point? And the answer is yes and no. I think there are two groups of people where I can see gimbals continuing to rise in popularity. So there are those who are getting one of the latest smartphones and want to dabble in video a little bit, and those who have experience with video already but are advancing themselves. So let's talk about smartphones. The photo and video quality is getting so good that for camera enthusiasts and professionals, it's good enough for use with social media or to augment your current productions. For most other people, a smartphone is good enough to start using as your main camera. So in my mind, that makes the smartphone gimbal one of the best investments and probably the best first gimbal most people should get. The other wave of popularity will be driven by big innovations. So gimbals from 3 years ago are still good enough for a lot of people who just want a stabilizer. For newer gimbals, what that means is that it just won't be good enough that a gimbal can just balance a camera. It'll have to push boundaries more and add more functionality. So in the future, I can see some kind of crazy things happening. I can see like a company making a modular gimbal that pairs perfectly with a camera slider or attaches to a drone body, which would be super awesome. Are gimbals gonna stay popular? You're dang right they will. Gotta go. Bye.
Thanks, Brett. So about that gimbal being more complex and pushing boundaries in the future, Brett and Joseph have some good points. In order for gimbal companies to stay competitive, gimbal in the future has to do more than just provide a smooth footage. Now, I still think there is a separate market for like a smooth, simple gimbal that just works, but you have to give prosumers more value than it takes up space in the camera bag. And that is to provide non-gimmicky functions that promote minimalism. Brett and I were actually talking about this at CES. You see, gimbals almost can replace a simple slider shot unless you're filming like yourself or if it's for like a long interview. You guys have seen these like multi-axis motion control sliders before, right? To me, I love the idea, but because it takes up like so much space and really expensive, I haven't really pulled the trigger on buying one. Now imagine instead of having this really expensive motorized head on top of a slider, having a part of the gimbal as the head. Actually, don't have to imagine it because I kind of tried it. A while ago, I combined an app control slider and a gimbal to get a shot like this. I mean, it was not practical since I had to control both devices with two different apps, but you see where I'm going with this? Yeah, comment below if you would love to see a slider merge with your existing smart gimbal. So before we dive deep into the hole that is geeky gimbal talk, I have someone interesting for you to meet.
Hello, I am J Reid and I make probably the most entertaining running videos on YouTube. I also make hiking videos, outdoors videos, videos about filmmaking, drones, gadgets, gear, that kind of stuff. And for some reason, C asked me to be in this video. Although it's not going to end well because I do not have a good history with gimbals. I have a love-hate relationship with gimbals in that I love to hate the things. I hate gimbals, yes I do. I actually think gimbals are one of the most overrated pieces of equipment, especially for new filmmakers, because buy a gimbal and then you realize I spent all this money so I must use it at every possible shoot. I have seen people at conferences sitting with a Ronin S recording from a static position. Like, idiots. You do not need a gimbal for the vast majority of footage that you will shoot, and I genuinely think that when you're starting off, they're just a hindrance. Learn how to handhold, learn how to get your knees smooth, and do that special forces walk that means you don't even need it. And the fact is, if you're able to shoot at 120 frames a second, you don't really need a gimbal. If you look at what GoPro have been able to do just electronic image stabilization, they've eradicated the need for gimbals at the action camera range. What I think is going to happen is, starting with Micro Four Thirds, now that we're going up to 8K sensors, they're going to be able to do such good in-body stabilization, combining sensor shift and electronic image stabilization, that you will not need a gimbal for smaller cameras. I'm predicting it's going to come in with the GH6. Mark my words.
And we shall. I tell everyone they're allowed to like share their thoughts freely.
I hate gimbals, yes I do. They never quite work for me or you. Why would you want to?
Or sing about it. All right, that was kind of awesome, Steven. All right, let me first agree with the portion that yes, gimbal can be a hindrance if you overuse it as a beginner. It's too easy to use, so you won't force yourself to like learn how to be really stable with your handheld shots and using it for static shots at the conference. However, here's the thing. All right, gimbal these days have gotten so small that we're able to carry it all day, like anywhere. I can basically replicate a slider, crane, glide cam, and a tripod shot instantly. I'm guessing the idiot that Steven mentioned is just getting the static shots all day. The key of being good on a gimbal is being versatile and knowing which of these styles to switch into at the right time. Before I get into something interesting about IBIS, there is one more person who shares a similar opinion as Steven.
What's up everyone, Vu of NVU Films, and I am back with another idiotic opinion for you to watch on Say Park's professional YouTube channel. Please bear with me as I've never been on a professional YouTube channel before, so yeah, let's get to it. So, 3 years from now, where will gimbals be? I think it will not be as popular as it is now. One, right now it is way too saturated market. I mean, there is DJI, Juwin, Feiyutech, Moza Air, and probably a dozen other Chinese brands of gimbal out there that is in the market right now, and gimbals are getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Matter of fact, this gimbal here, Feiyutech AK2000S, could handle A7S III with the Sigma 2470 DG D's nuts lens, and it is only $350. With $350, I could probably buy, say, 600 tubs of homemade kimchi from the local Korean supermarket till his heart is content with spicy fermented cabbage. Now, the other reason why I think gimbals will not be as popular 3 years from now is technology. IBIS, electronic image stabilization. Already you see GH5 and of course the Panasonic S1H with amazing IBIS. Fuji is about to come out with the X-T4, which also has IBIS. And of course, cameras like this GoPro, although yes, it is a smaller sensor and the electronic stabilization excels when there's a smaller sensor. And this thing, without a gimbal, has gimbal-like stability. In order for gimbals to survive, they gotta just not worry about like all these like random fancy stuff like vortex mode or like tracking and these things that like probably 2% of gimbal purchasers, gimbal users would even tap into. I think they need to get more compact, maybe like do something fancy where like the gimbal is almost like a handheld cage type of thing, and just make it balanced no matter what lens you put on. I don't know what they have to do. Like my biggest pet peeve with gimbals is the fact that every time I change lenses, I have to rebalance the whole thing. If the gimbal still looks like this in 3 years, it's not gonna work. Because even now, with some cameras don't even have IBIS, guys are just picking up their camera and using it handheld and using different strategies to create camera movement with great results, not even have to carry a gimbal because it's super cumbersome, no matter how big the gimbal is. So, yeah, that is my opinion on that. I surely hope I didn't embarrass myself on Say Park's channel. Till next time, guys, make it a good one.
Really? Really, Boo? That's how I sound on my outro? Like some Japanese anime character? Yatta! Yeah, okay, yeah, oh man. I'm getting roasted in my own video, guys. Alright, I don't know if I can do my outro anymore like this. Alright, let's talk about IBIS. Yes, I agree. Electronic stabilization will rule the small sensor cameras like action cameras and like phone. So yeah, I do think that over time, phone and action camera gimbals will be less popular for like prosumers. My mom will still use it though. However, on a full frame sensor cameras, I think we are approaching the limit of what camera stabilization can do. Full frame cameras rely more on the actual physical stabilization because the amount of data it has to process and rolling shutter. Also, prosumer filmmakers like their 24 frames with 1/50 shutter speed, which creates these like motion blur. Once you have motion blur, it's very hard for software to digitalize, stabilize that. Action cameras have very high shutter speeds and they do okay, but for small sensors, once you film in the dark, shutter speed will go down and electronic stabilization is not very accurate. Also, to physically stabilize any mirrorless cameras, there is a limit of how much space is available inside the camera and the limit to the gyro sensors. Olympus once claimed that the max physical IBIS is 6.5 stops due to the relationship between Earth's rotation and Gyro sensors, yeah. I'm not a Nobel Prize winning physicist, so I cannot confirm that, but some camera companies seem to think it will be much more difficult after hitting 6.5 stops of IBIS. Right now, GH5 with their dual IS can hit 5 stops, so we're getting close. Also, I don't think IBIS and handheld can pull off shots like these. I'm not saying these shots are like the saving grace for the gimbals, but there is always a time and a place for gimbals. My prediction is that IBIS will not be good enough to handle those shaky hands powered by Starbucks coffee for all situations in 3 years. And fun fact, in 2020, the world's coffee consumption is estimated to increase by 1.2 million bags, and I'm pretty sure half of those is consumed by videographers and state of Alaska. So to conclude this discussion, last but not least, here's one of my favorite YouTubers from Alaska.
Thanks, C. My name's Jake Sloan, and I make content for solo creators who want to improve their videography and photography so they can tell better stories, and I do that while exploring some pretty cool places in the state of Alaska where I live. Do I think that gimbals are going to be around for another 3 years? Do I think they'll still be around in 3 years? Yes. Yes, I do. Because no matter how good smartphones get, there's still going to be a limit to what they can do because of their sensor size, and no matter how good action cameras get, they're kind of limited by the same things. Low light performance is really a problem, sensor size is a problem, and so I think there'll always be a place to be able to stabilize large format sensor cameras like this one, the full frame A7 III. But because of the size of the sensors, there's going to be a limit as to how much in-body image stabilization and how much optical image stabilization you can build into these things without going to be a huge, massive size. And that's where I think gimbals are going to always come into play. When you need the best, absolute, smoothest footage possible, a gimbal is always going to be something you're going to use if you're using a larger sensor camera. Now, where do I hope that gimbals are going to go in the next few years? I would really like to see the stabilization algorithms that are built into these to get a little bit better and improve, especially when you're doing multi-movements, like you're panning while you're also tilting up. Those movements seem to be the places where gimbals struggle the most. And then I really want to see more development on the smart tracking features, the smart side of gimbals, to where you can use object tracking that's more accurate and more precise and really, really good, as well as some of the other motion features that you can use to pre-program gimbal movements for either motion time lapses or even just creative shot planning. I think it'll be really exciting to see where gimbals go in the next 3 years, especially now that we're starting to depart from the traditional gimbal design of a straight stick with a 3-axis gimbal on top. The weebill-s, is one of my favorites purely because the design, the form factor is different than it's been before, and it's small and portable, which I also want to see more of. Thanks, C, for having me do this. Back to you.
Thanks, Jake. So there you have it, guys. Those are our opinion on the future of gimbals. I think we will see like final acceleration and gimbal advancement in the next year or two. I found this one study done by a company named Technavio, and gimbal innovation and growth will plateau in the next few years. What does that mean for filmmakers? I think within the next 3 years, the gimbal you get is probably going to be the gimbal you use for a while. It also means that we will have to rely more on creativity and really get to know and push our gimbal's capabilities, since everyone will have a gimbal, including my mom, doing the same shots. The straight walking or the simple orbital gimbal shot just won't have the same pop anymore. So my challenge to you guys is, how can we tell a better story with a gimbal? How can we really push the limits of these gimbals to do that? I can tell you guys right now, it's not that 30 seconds of straight 360 barrel moves. So I don't mean to leave you guys with a question, but sometimes we gotta look at the big picture to get to the next level. And that is what we'll answer this year. So until next time, guys, make it a... Dang it, boo. All right, I got this. Until next time, lighten up.